Hi friends, how are you today? I hope you are having a wonderful day so far. My name is Bailey Sarian and today is Monday, which means it's Murder, Mystery, and Makeup Monday. If you're new here, hi, my name is Bailey and on Mondays I sit down and I talk about a true crime story that's been heavy on my noggin, and I do my makeup at the same time just to keep myself busy. If you're interested in true crime and you like makeup, hi, I would say subscribe, because I'm here for you every other Monday. And I do list the products I'm using down below. YouTube has this new thing where it's like it pops up on the side. Let me know if you like that or not. I'm trying it out. It's new. I don't know. But other than that, I will shut up and get into today's story. Today we're talking about an American serial killer who nobody would have thought would be a serial killer, because she does not check any of the boxes of a freaking serial killer. These are the ones you gotta watch out for. Okay? Today we're talking about Dorothea Puente. You know her? I thought I knew her story. I'm always surprised every time. I learn so much. Oy vey. So let me tell you about Dorothea and her story. She's got a lot going on, and I left some stuff out because it was like, dude, it was just a lot. It doesn't matter. Dorothea was born January 9th, 1929 in San Bernardino, California. San Bernardino was like just east of Los Angeles, and at the time when she was born there, because now it's like it's pretty well developed, but when she was born it was like new and upcoming and becoming a major metropolitan area. You know, it's just starting off. San Bernardino, little fun fact, was where the first McDonald's was built, so there's that. Fun. Now, record keeping at this time, not the best. So there's like a lot of things that we don't really know for sure about like Dorothea's upbringing, but what we do know was that her upbringing was rough, as I'm sure you can imagine, right? Well, maybe you don't, but let me tell you. So it was said that Dorothea, she was a part of like a really big family. She had anywhere between 6 to 17 siblings. Now it's unclear. Nobody knows what the real answer is. Dorothea would tell conflicting stories about her background and her family, so no one ever really got clarification. So she either had 6 siblings or 17. Just go with it. So Dorothea's parents were not ideal. Dorothea's mom was young when she had children, and to make money, she worked as a sex worker. But then when she was home, it was said that she was just like very abusive. She was uninterested. She's like, children where? Not mine. And she loved the alcohol. It was said it was clear to the kids that like their mom did not like them or even want to be around them. She would take off for work. She wouldn't say anything, okay? And she wouldn't be gone for like just a few hours. She would like go missing for days. Yeah, everyone's like, where's your mom? No idea. Then she would just reappear one day and be like, what? What? It's just a few days, whatever. When she did leave for long periods of time, her answer as like what to do with the children was to just lock them in one of the closets so they'd be safe. Yeah, so she'd lock them in the closet. Dorothea's father wasn't any better. He too loved to just numb out with alcohol. And when he was home with the kids, it was quite dramatic. I guess he would get like real sauced up, and he would announce to everyone in the room that he was gonna kill himself, like in front of the kids. He's like, I'm gonna kill myself. So then he would literally bring out his gun, he would press it against his head and tell them that he was going to pull the trigger. Well, he was a big old lying bitch because he never did it, but like I'm sure it's safe to assume here that that was probably a traumatic thing to witness for the kids or anyone really, right? Your dad doing that? So rough. Dorothea's father was physically sick a lot too. He had served in World War I, and when doing so, at some point he was exposed to mustard gas, which just destroyed his lungs and had lasting effects. In 1927, when Dorothea was 8, her dad ended up passing away from tuberculosis. And then, not even a year later, Dorothea's mom ends up passing away in like a horrible motorcycle accident. She sounded wild, right? Because I guess at this time, her mom was like hanging around a motorcycle gang, causing trouble, doing her thing. But yeah, she got into an accident and she died. Dorothea was now an orphan and was being moved around from like place to place, foster home to foster home, and just no longer had that stable home life. I'm not even sure if it was stable to begin with, you know? But obviously tragic for anyone. It was said during this time is when Dorothea became quite the storyteller. Like she would tell like a lot of little lies about anything and everything. When she turned 16, she decided to get out of her situation and move out on her own to Olympia, Washington. When she gets to Olympia, Washington, she tells everyone that her name is Sherry. She's like, hey, I'm Sherry. And she quickly finds a job working at a milkshake shop and starts also working as a sex worker to make some extra money. Working at a milkshake shop, though, that would be my dream. Okay, but she's working there and she's making, but you know, she's got to pay the bills, so she does sex work on the side so she could actually make some money. So 1945, Dorothea is 16 years old, and this is when she meets a World War II vet. His name is Fred McFall. The two of them seem to hit it off, and after knowing each other for just like a few months, they decide, hey, we should get married. And they do. Ah, marriage. Yes, so quickly, but it's pretty normal back then, I guess, right? Well, still now, people get married. Whatever. They get married. Now, Fred, he thought he knew who he was marrying, but he had no idea. Fred knew her as Sarian Racine, and not only that, he thought she was 30 years old, which I was like, okay, listen, either she must have been like a rough-looking 16-year-old to pass as a 30-year-old, or this Fred guy was dumb, blind, I don't know, but he thought she was 30, allegedly. So later on, when Fred had learned the truths, he would say that he thought Dorothea genuinely just wanted to be a different person. Like she was probably running from her past. As Sherriel, she could be whoever she wanted to be. Not that sad Dorothea with the shitty upbringing, you know? Probably, yeah. Well, Dorothea and Fred, they're married and they end up moving to Nevada together. The two of them would go on to have two daughters, one in 1946 and another in 1947. But get this, both children would end up being removed from the home. Now, I couldn't find out why. Because like they don't just come in and remove children, right? There has to be something wrong. But they were removed. One daughter was taken to live with relatives and the other was placed in adoption. I don't know what was going on in that house, but something obviously was not right. Right? More concealer. Makes me feel safe. 1948, Dorothea and Fred, they end up getting a divorce. It wasn't working out. Don't know. Okay. When the divorce was final, Dorothea, she would go around telling everyone that her first husband had died. I guess it's better than saying she got divorced. So everyone for a long time believed that her first husband had indeed died. Poor Dorothea. So with her first husband dead now, she ended up moving back to San Bernardino. You know, she's familiar with it. It's where she lives, whatever. She didn't have any money. She didn't have anyone to help her. So this is when she picks up her first criminal conviction. Dorothea, she started writing bad checks, which she got caught for and would end up spending 4 months in jail for writing bad checks. She was also placed on 3 years probation, which she kind of took as like a suggestion because she broke the probation in like month 6 because she ended up, or she decided she wanted to move to San Francisco instead. So she moves to San Francisco, finds a man quickly, marries him, changes her name. All of this, I'm assuming, to avoid the probation officers from finding her. She also started claiming to be an Israeli Muslim woman, like just a rebrand, if you will. Also, a side note, I don't want to like give all the husbands' names and stuff because there's a ton, and it's like you don't need to know all the husbands' names and stuff. They don't. You get it? Okay. I just don't think it matters. Like, they end up getting divorced, like, not that long. So in 1960, Dorothea starts running her own bookkeeping service, but really it was a front. She was actually running a brothel, and she was working as the madame. She would take care of the location and the girls, and I'm using take care of loosely because I don't really know if she was taking care of them. We don't know. But she was in charge of the brothel home. And she was making good money doing it. She's like, hell yeah. Got him. Well, The guy who was like renting the building to Dorothea, he wasn't dumb. He caught on as to what was really going on, and he ended up reporting her to the police. So the police come in and they do this whole sting operation, you know, undercover police work, where I'm sure somebody got a free handy, but it proved that Dorothea was indeed running a brothel, and she was acting as the one in charge. So, arrested. Right there. She pleaded guilty, and she was given 90 days in jail. It was said her husband at the time was very supportive, but it doesn't really matter, because as soon as she got out of jail, the two of them got a divorce. It's her second husband. She knew she was onto something, though. Like, maybe not running a brothel, but something else. A new business venture. She was like, I like being in charge, you know? So she ended up setting up like an unlicensed care home. And this care home would be for the elderly, the ill, and most importantly, anyone who struggled with some form of like addiction, alcoholism, stuff like that. And she called it the Samaritans. So this new business venture, Dorothea would be working as a 24-hour caretaker, which would allow her to take a certain percentage of her clients' social security checks to fund the thing. So she's able to have, you know, a bit of income and keep things going. It was said Dorothea could be quite the charmer. She was able to get like everyone on her side. When city inspectors would come by, or like social workers, they'd all come by like the building she was renting, and they were always given like a warm welcome. It was said Dorothea would offer them some pie and coffee with every visit, and usually every month she would throw a dinner for her clients and their social workers. And they were like always impressed with Dorothea. They're like, she cares so much about helping people. It's amazing, isn't it? It's a shame. The social workers, they considered her a stable, motherly figure for the people in her care. I mean, it was just, she was a blessing. Dorothea, now 39, gets married a third time to a 21-year-old, but the marriage only lasted about 2 weeks, and then they divorced. I don't know what the goal was there, okay, or with any of her marriages, but hey, third divorce, done and over with. But at the same time of this divorce, she also declared bankruptcy. I guess her business, the Samaritans, was $10,000 in debt. Yeah. I mean, she didn't really have a background in running a business, so she had no idea really what she was doing. She's like, I don't know. I was just guessing. But she took notes, okay? She was going to try again. So she was like, time for another rebrand. That's the rebrand noise. So Dorothea, now in her 40s, transformed once more. It was said that she had always been known for her, quote, brassy, sexy makeup and dress, end quote. But now suddenly, or all of a sudden, she was wearing baggy clothes, she's dressing modestly, and she stopped dyeing her hair. She told new acquaintances that she was a devoted Christian woman who was dedicated to serving her community. Which, good for her. You want to believe her, but you know, we're here. It's Monday, so we know that's not really what she wants, is it? No, it's not. So Dorothea, she had rented a 3-story house at 2100 F Street in Sacramento, California. Sacramento, I've never been. It's the state capital. I hear it's not that great. Anyways, she's renting a house there, okay? What she did was she took over the whole like 3rd floor of the place for her personal residence, and then she had boarders living throughout the rest of the home. It was said she took in homeless people, anyone struggling with mental health issues or substance issues, and within the home she also would host AA meetings. And honestly, like, the local social workers, they were familiar with the whole thing. And again, they considered Dorothea's services as a reliable placement for their clients, believing that Dorothea was taking good care of the people. It was said that Dorothea, she had a system. Okay, she knew what she was doing. The boarders who were receiving higher federally funded checks were put on the main floor, while the residents who didn't have much to offer her were kept in the basement, where like there were quote unquote rooms made up and separated by curtains. Kind of like what they do at the hospital. You know, they put up curtains, you get it. So that's where they would stay. And it sounds all fine and dandy, but we're here, you know. I guess behind closed doors, Dorothea would lose it. Like, she would blow up on her tenants about anything and everything. I imagine she probably had some built up anger, huh? Especially when it came to like the alcoholics. It was said most likely because they reminded her of her own parents, which makes sense, right? It was said that she was just a mean woman behind closed doors. During this time, Dorothea even developed a drinking problem of her own. Whoopsie. So to keep her business afloat, she would take social security checks from her tenants to get the basics for the home, and even sometimes she would use that money to donate to political campaigns that worked towards gaining some respect within the social space. And it worked. I mean, people left her alone and again thought she was an angel, helping the community, helping the less fortunate, and someone that they could rely on. Kind of smart though, huh? She was covering her butt, making sure no one's coming in and like checking up on her. Dorothea somehow managed to get a fourth husband. No idea how she's finding them. I know, but okay. So the two would call it quits after like 16 months of marriage. Her fourth husband's biggest complaint was that she wanted to buy new pantyhose every single day. Not the pantyhose. Leave the pantyhose out of this. But that's was his reasoning. In September of 1978, someone over at the Social Security Administration was getting a little funny feeling about this Dorothea lady. So they start to snoop around, looking in her records. And what really stuck out to them was how could a lady with prior convictions be running a reliable boarding house for recovering alcoholics? Like, it just they had some questions. So the Treasury Department started looking into her finances and found out that Miss Dorothea had once again been forging checks. Oh yeah. They stopped totaling the amount of forged checks when the total reached $4,000, which was enough to be charged with a felony. So police, they find her, they approach her. Dorothea quickly pled guilty, and because of this, she avoided prison time. She instead got 5 years parole and was ordered to undergo psychological counseling. Now, because of all this hot mess, she ended up losing her house at 2100 F Street and her position as a civic leader. This was devastating to her, and it was said this led to her suffering from a complete nervous breakdown. Her psychiatrist diagnosed her with a broad personality disorder, in his words saying that she was a schizophrenia, chronic, undifferentiated type, end quote. Noted, okay. Well, when she lost this place, she had to like start over. So Dorothea, she got some odd jobs just to really get by, but she was really looking for a place to once again provide that personal approach, one-on-one time. She really liked that. She was good at it, I think. I'm not sure. No, she's not. So she's working some odd jobs, and once she was able to get enough money saved up, she rented another apartment. Well, it was a house, but she rented it, and it was on F Street. She seemed to really like F Street. So her new residence was 1426 F Street, and let me tell you, it's so cute. So cute. She's renting like this cute Victorian bungalow. $200 a month. Wow, I know. 1426 F Street, the house was perfect because it had 8 rooms, pretty big, right? A bit of a yard. It was built in the 60s, had some cute personality. It looked like a cute little dollhouse. Cute porch, nice little gate out front to keep the people out. Kind of perfect for like this sweet older woman. Well, she's got her new place and she's definitely on the prowl. So Dorothea goes out to a local bar in the area. It's called the Zebra Club. I love an animal theme. And she ends up meeting a 70-year-old man named Malcolm. I guess at the bar, the two of them were quite flirty, getting to know one another, being all cute. And then he invited Dorothea to his apartment to see where the night takes them. It was said by the time the two of them got back to his place, he really wasn't feeling well. So he was like apologizing to her and like, sorry, but I'm gonna lay on the couch for a little bit. So he goes and he lays on the couch and he is just not feeling right. When he's laying there, he's starting to realize that like he couldn't move his body. He could still hear and see everything, but he could not speak or move anything. Okay, he was like just frozen, which must have been terrifying. But mind you, he's awake, so he's like looking around, watching Miss Dorothea go around his place, see her grab one of his suitcases. She's moving around the apartment searching for anything of value. She loaded up the suitcase with like cash, jewelry, whatever she could. She's like, this vase, great, put it in there, you know, like, and then she left. Poor Malcolm stuck there until about an hour went by when he said that the drug finally wore off. When he was able to like regain control of his body, he gets up and the first thing he does is pick up the phone and calls the police. Luckily, he was able to give police her first and last name because she didn't think to use a fake name. And the police would catch up with Dorothea a few days later, coincidentally, trying to cash a check that she had stolen from Malcolm. So it was like, oh, all just lined up. They're like, the checks, Malcolm, blah, you know. But when she got caught, she had excuses. She told police, she was like, look, listen, I have a reason. Let me think of one first. The first reason is he gave me the checks. He wanted to go steady with me, but I didn't like him like that. That was her first excuse, that he gave him to her. Her next excuse was, I have a psychiatric disorder that occasionally causes my memory to lapse. So I don't really know how I got these checks. I'm sorry. And with both of those excuses, she's like, which one are you buying? And the police were like, all right, you know, you can go. And they made a note to keep an eye on her. I know. That I was like, but, huh? I don't know. She's getting a lot of chances. So she's let go, whatever. She keeps doing her thing. Not long after, Dorothea was at a beauty salon where she met 82-year-old Irene. Now, there was some kind of discussion happening where Dorothea had learned that Irene wasn't feeling well or that she was like looking for a doctor. But Dorothea hears this and she chimes in. She's like, oh my God, that's crazy because I'm actually a nurse. And what's even more crazy is that I work for your doctor. What a small world, you know? And Irene, mind you, Dorothea is like this nice, more mature looking woman. Why would she lie, you know? So Irene was like, splendid. And she asked Dorothea to come over to her house for a house call. Dorothea shows up to Irene's home. She's got like one of those doctor bags in hand, looking pretty legit. She takes Irene's blood pressure and tells her that her body is holding too much water. But not to worry, because she had the perfect medication that would help. So Dorothea goes to her little doctor bag and pulls out a bottle of pills. She tells Irene to just take a few and then lay down, you know? Not a big deal. So Irene, she remembers taking a few, laying down, and then that's it. She loses consciousness. Irene would come to hours later. When she wakes up, she realizes that like some of her valuables were missing, like her jewelry and also her prescription medications were missing. So she calls the police, tells them what happens, but she was only able to give a description of the woman because Dorothea had told Irene that her name was Betty. So not great. But my thought here was like, oh, police are probably making a connection here because it's like a similar story to that guy. Very similar story. Maybe they're making a connection. But I was asking too much because they certainly were not. Nay. But get this, because Dorothea is dumb as hell. A few days later, Irene goes back to the beauty salon and guess who is there? Fucking Dorothea, aka Betty. Like, what an idiot. Why are you going back? Maybe she thought she killed her. Whatever. She's back. And Irene is like, fucking, that's her. You know. Irene tells her hairdresser to call the police, but she does it in a really low-key way so, you know, Dorothea won't spook and run. She's like, call the fucking police. By the time police arrive, Dorothea had left. But luckily, the hairdresser that was talking with Dorothea knew her real name. So she went over, gave the police her real name. Dorothea. Do something with it. Jeez. So police go on over to Dorothea's place. She maintained that she did nothing wrong, and because they couldn't find like Irene's jewelry or anything that linked Dorothea to Irene in the first place, she couldn't be charged with anything. Dorothea's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. That's crazy. She is just getting away and away and away with more and more stuff. Dorothea was taken to court after 2 more women in her care came forward and reported that their checks were missing and that thousands of dollars worth of valuables were gone. But nothing came from it. And like the judge who would see Dorothea would always release her. She would just end up skipping her way right back to 1426 F Street, you know? So at this point, she's getting a little nervous. Like police have kind of like been involved a little bit. So she's trying to think of ways, you know, what can I do now? Like she wanted to get a better source of income. That way she could just get out, flee the country. So with this in mind, she's like, I need to make money fast, like good money fast. So in her mind, the best option here would be to just kill people for profit. Makes sense, right? She's like, yeah, great. That's my new plan. Big jump, big jump. But okay, Dorothea. So Dorothea, she had met this woman. Her name was Ruth Monroe, and she met her through Ruth's husband, who was terminally ill. Not quite sure how this all came to be, but they met, they hung out, and Dorothea and Ruth had really hit it off. During the evening together, Dorothea had convinced Ruth that she should go into business with her. Now, I read that they were going to go into business together as caterers. I don't know if that's true or not, but they're going to go into business together, and Ruth agrees. So they get like a joint account, and they're going to put their money in there, and that's going to be for the business. Ruth is really liking this idea. Her marriage, it was on the rocks, and she was like ready for her own business venture. So Dorothea's like, girl, move in with me, right? Ruth is like, great. And she does. So Ruth moves in, and it wouldn't take long for Ruth to start feeling off. Ruth would go around telling her friends and family that she was like feeling sick, and she was often getting confused. Like she couldn't remember anything, it seemed like. And at one point, she even told her family that she felt like she was going to die. Pretty troubling, right? So, you know, Ruth's son, he stops by to see how she's doing. And the first thing that he remembered was that his mom was drinking alcohol. Now, this was weird because his mom like rarely drank alcohol, especially the drink she was drinking, which I can't pronounce. It's crème de menthe. I know that's not how you say it because it's French and I looked it up. It's like a mint cocktail situation. And I was like, what the hell did she learn about this? I never heard of this before. Because when you look it up, this crème de menthe, sorry, it's straight up, it's green. It looks like battery acid or like antifreeze, but people were drinking it. And they liked it, I guess. It's popular. Because I did some more Googling. I was very curious. And this drink was like popular. We don't need a whole history about this drink, but in the 70s and 80s, it was popular with cognac. People liked it. Okay, anyways, point being, she didn't drink much according to her family, so it was weird. So her son came back over the next 2 days to check in, and like same thing, she was sipping on that green juice, the crème de menthe. In April of 1982, Ruth's other 2 children came by to visit. The first daughter, Rosie, came in the early morning, and she went to her mom's room and found her in like a really deep sleep and was unable to wake her up. So Rosie goes to Dorothea and is like, what is going on? Like, is my mom okay? I can't wake her up. And Dorothea is like, oh my God, yeah, don't worry. The local AER, they came by, they gave her a shot to calm her down because she was really agitated. So they gave her this shot and it kind of like, you know, sedated her. Now her daughter didn't question it because she trusted that Dorothea was an experienced nurse and was caring for her mother, you know? This older woman, Dorothea. Later that evening, Ruth's son, his name's Bill, he came by, and he was met with Dorothea like at the door. She was kind of like blocking it. Huh? She's like, what do you want? What are you doing? She told him that he shouldn't go upstairs and check on his mom because she was sleeping and she really needed the sleep. But Bill was like, that's okay. I'm gonna go upstairs and check on my mom anyways. You know? So he goes up there. When he gets inside her room, he finds his mom in bed. She's lying kind of stiff on her side with like her eyes wide open. She was completely unresponsive. And to her son, she seemed to be drugged. So like she was still alive, but she was drugged. So Bill is like talking to his mom, and he tells her like not to worry. Everything's going to be all right, and that Dorothea is going to take care of you. That's what he's saying to her. And then Bill said he saw a single tear fall from his mom's eye when he said this. Oh, could you imagine? She's screaming inside like, please no. But again, the family trusted that she was in good hands, and they said their goodbyes. The next morning, Ruth's daughter received a phone call from Dorothea telling her that something was wrong with her mother and that the paramedics were called. So her daughter, freaking out, rushes over there. And when she gets there, she's told by Dorothea that her mom had died. When first responders show up to the house, Dorothea told them that Ruth had a heart condition and was under a lot of stress because she was having issues with her husband. And she was telling authorities that, oh, most likely Ruth committed suicide because she was so stressed out over this. That's what she says. But the coroner's report said, something ain't right here, ma'am. Because on the report, it said that Ruth's liver was enlarged and showed signs of toxicity. She also had no signs of food in her stomach, which led them to believe that she hadn't eaten in several days. But they found a large amount of the alcohol, creme de menthe, in her system. So maybe she was just drinking herself to death. That's what, right? But then the toxicology report came back showing that Ruth actually died of an overdose of Tylenol and codeine. Ruth's death was listed inconclusive. Ruth's family was feeling all sorts of ways, you know, thinking maybe Dorothea was a little suspicious. Maybe she actually had like done something as horrible as like killing their mom, right? So they went to the DA's office, but were told that there just wasn't any physical evidence or anything really linking Dorothea to her death to build a solid case. So yippity skippy for Dorothea. With Ruth out of the way, she was able to take out money from her and Ruth's joint account with the full intentions to flee to Mexico, which she should have because she had the money, but I guess she wanted more. Dorothea had a neighbor she was friendly with. Her name was Dorothy Osborne. And you know, they would do the neighbor thing, wave. Hey, nice tulips. Love your yard, Gorge. How are you? Did you get the mail? Love that, Gorge. You know, neighbor stuff. Well, one night, Dorothea came over to the neighbors to have a little girls' night. She's like, I brought the booze. So Dorothea like goes into the kitchen and prepares both of them an adult beverage. Dorothea comes back. It gives the drink to Dorothy. Dorothy takes a sip, and baby, that's the last thing she remembers. She completely knocked out. And when Dorothy came to, finally, she was looking around, realizing that her checkbook and valuables were missing, just like everybody else, you know? And the first thing she did was call the police. So the police, they come over and they find evidence of the mixed drink that Dorothea had made. But not only that, right next to it was some kind of like loose white powder. This is great because this is something. So the police, they took this into evidence, and Dorothea was quickly arrested. From there, she was sentenced to 5 years in jail, but she would only serve 3. Why? I don't know. Well, good behavior and stuff, but like, I don't know. But she also had the money to be able to keep the place that she was renting. So she didn't lose that this time. I guess that's good. While in prison, Dorothea began writing love letters to a 70-year-old widower. His name was Everson Gilmouth. No idea how they met, you guys. No idea. Don't know. Don't ask, okay? But she had the ability to get a man quick. She didn't give her secrets away. But she's in prison. They stayed in touch, writing little love letters. And when she was released, the two of them decided to move into Dorothea's apartment on F Street. This Everson guy, originally, he was living in Oregon on his sister's property. So him moving to a new state with like a woman that she had never met made her worried about her brother. But like there wasn't much else that she could do because Everson was an adult after all. You know? So after he moved and his sister hadn't heard from him in quite some time, she called the police to like check on him and do like a wellness check. And this was in September of 1985. So the police go by and do a wellness check, and Everson was alive and well, but most of all, he was pissed the F off that his sister even had called the police in the first place. So once the police had left, he called up his sister and told her, like, don't ever contact me again. Click. You know? She's shocked, like, geez, okay. Bye. So after that confrontation, the only time the sister would hear from Everson was when she received a letter in the mail. She would receive letters stating that, you know, everything was fine and dandy, he's loving life. But the letters were always signed by Dorothea. The whole thing was weird, and it was clear none of the letters were coming from her brother. But again, like, what was she going to do, you know? He's an adult. Maybe she's butting in. I don't know. So she just kind of stood back, and it is what it is. Everson had been living with Dorothea since mid-August of 1985, and he was staying with her. And also, I failed to mention that the landlord was also living at this property. The landlord would like come and go, wasn't really around much, you know, but they lived on like the first floor. And the landlord remembered seeing Everson around the house. And the last time he saw Everson, he noticed that he was like grabbing his chest, like something was obviously like going on. But he made a note to himself, like, it must be manageable because he's doing fine, you know, he's holding his chest, he's complaining, but it seemed manageable. Well, the landlord ended up leaving. He left town for like a few weeks, and when he came back, he realized that Everson was gone. So the landlord was like, hey, Dorothea, what happened to that guy Everson? And she told him that he didn't like Sacramento, so he decided to move back to Oregon. I'm like, that was that. It's like nobody really asked follow-up questions, you know? I'm so nosy. I'd be like, but why? When? How? What part? Family down there? Meanwhile, Dorothea had reached out to a friend who was like also a handyman, carpenter, jack of all trades, you know? She reached out to this friend and she's like, hey, can you help me with some work around the house? She's like, I don't have a lot of money, but I can pay you in a vehicle. So it was a red pickup truck. And she's like, I could give it to you for $800 if you will do work for me. Now, the red pickup truck was Everson's, but the carpenter, he didn't know that. He didn't know the full story. He just thought, hey, cool, what a deal. So the carpenter agrees. He's like, sure. Comes out, starts doing some handiwork for her. Eventually, Dorothea gets to the real point. She's like, hey, will you build me a box? She tells the carpenter, she's like, I really want this 6-foot by 3-foot box to store old things in. And he's like, sure. He's like, I'll make you that box. And she's like, oh, and I also need a lid for the box. Now, if you didn't have questions, then you would just, you know, you're dumb. But this guy just wanted to stay out of it again. He's like, I don't know what this is, but I'm just going to do it. So he makes this box for her and he drops it off. And then a few days later, he comes back. And he noted that the box was now nailed shut and extremely heavy. He didn't ask questions, allegedly. He didn't want to know. Instead, he helped Dorothea. He helped her out, loaded it into the truck, and he drove the box across town when Dorothea told him to pull over. And it was like in this secluded part of town next to a river. There is when she asked him to help her move the box into the riverbank, and then they left. The box would be discovered in January of 1986 by like two men who were just minding their own business. They come across this box. They thought it smelled a little funky, so they opened it up, found a body wrapped in garbage bags. There were like mothballs inside and a deodorant stick in hopes to like hide the smell. The body itself was said to be so badly decomposed that investigators had a hard time identifying who it was. So at first, he was tagged as John Doe. Sadly, 3 years would go by before anyone came forward and helped ID the body as a person who had lived with Dorothea Puente. So nobody's putting the pieces together. Dorothea's been getting away with everything for her whole life. And like during those 3 years, Dorothea was still taking in people completely unchecked. She had brought in 40 new tenants over the course of 3 years. And yeah, no one was catching on. No one was saying anything. It was said, though, that she ran like a really tight ship. The residents would pay $350 a month for a room, which also included 2 meals, breakfast, which took place at like 6:30 a.m. and then dinner at 3:30 p.m. If you missed it, that was your own damn fault, okay? Nobody was allowed to enter the kitchen. Nobody was allowed to open mail or even think about touching the phone. Alcohol was prohibited, except for Dorothea. She was allowed to drink. With all these like paying guests in the home, she devised a plan. Well, she had this plan. She would collect all of the mail and open it before any of the tenants got to it. She would give them small amounts of money to spend, which normally like lasted as far as the nearest bar. And that's not me being mean. That was her plan. She wanted them to go to the bar and like come back drunk, because when the tenants would come back drunk and be like out of control or something, she would call the police, where they would arrest them for being disorderly. She liked this because sometimes they'd be locked up for like 30 days, which was just beautiful to Dorothea, because while they were away, she could just pocket any of their money that was coming in. This woman. In 1988, there was another social worker who was getting that funky feeling that something wasn't right with Dorothea. I mean, yes, within the social workers' conversations, Dorothea was known for like having the best the system had to offer, especially in that area. But was it? Was anyone actually checking up, you know? There was an outreach counselor who helped place a man named Bert Montoya with Dorothea, and Bert had gone missing. So it was odd, right? Bert struggled with schizophrenia and was also living on the streets, but his counselor would like really work closely with him to turn it all around. They were able to like set him up with social security checks, and were looking to place him in a home where he could be cared for. And that's when the counselor was like, oh my God, Dorothea, perfect. Like, let me place you with her, which she did. When Bert was first placed with her, it was said that his condition was improving. Like, he was taking showers on the reg, he had clean clothes, he was staying consistent with his medication, and things were like really looking up for him. In March of 1988, Dorothea took Bert down to the Social Security office and told them that Bert was developmentally disabled and that he was incapable of managing his own finances. Because of this, his benefits should be transferred to me, Dorothea. And the workers were like, yeah, totally makes sense. Sure. Dorothea listed herself as Bert's cousin, which made her the payee of Bert's monthly social security check. It was like $600 and something. And it wasn't long after that, nobody saw Bert again. Other tenants were there, right? And they would ask Dorothea, like, what happened to Bert? And she would tell them that he decided to leave and go stay with family in Mexico. They're like, weird, he didn't even speak Spanish, but okay. But the counselor who was in charge of Bert's account, she did not believe this at all. Instead, she filed a missing persons report with the police stating that Bert was not the type to run away. Like, no. So police go down to 1426 F Street to question Dorothea about this Bert guy, right? They scope out the place. They also ask some of the other tenants what they thought like happened to Bert. One resident told the officer that Bert had left for Mexico. Like Dorothea had told them to say this. And he was all serious. He had left for Mexico. But then, like low-key, the guy slowly handed over a note to the officer. Like, don't tell anyone. The officer looks at the note, and the note said, she's making me lie for her. This was enough for the police to get a warrant to search the property. So investigators, they returned to the property like 4 days later, which I was like, damn, like she could have ran. This lady, she didn't want to run though. She was tired. But they returned 4 days later with a search warrant to obviously search the house and also dig up the garden. You see, there were complaints coming in from the neighbor, and I think even the landlord too, but there was a stench coming from the property, you know, an off-putting stench, and they had been complaining about it for quite some time. So I think this is why they came with the intentions to dig up the garden, from my understanding. But on the first day, investigators began digging in the yard, and they kept coming across scraps of cloth and some other stuff. They were coming across scraps of cloth, but also they came across what they thought was beef jerky and a tree root. So they realized it was not beef jerky or a tree root when they found a shoe with a foot still inside of it. So it was a body. It was a body. Yes, they're like, that is not beef jerky. All right. The next day, the officers decided to drill under the concrete patio because there was a concrete patio. So Dorothea's at the house, and when she sees this happening, she just goes right up to the detective and just asks straight up if she was under arrest. And the detective told her no at this time. So she was like, okay, I'm going to go down the block and get myself a cup of coffee. And they're like, yeah, go ahead. I know, no comment. I think you know just how stupid everything is, right? While away getting her coffee, investigators, they found 3 more bodies that were buried hidden under that concrete. Then they found another that was buried under a gazebo that was like on the side yard. So it was 5 bodies being found so far. Yeah, and they just let the killer go. Get some coffee. So now investigators are looking around like, hey, where's Dorothea? It's been 4 hours since some bozo told her to go get some coffee. 4 hours, and she was now hundreds of miles away. After the search of Dorothea's home was complete, police had unearthed 7 bodies total. 51-year-old Bert Montoya, 64-year-old Dorothy Miller, 55-year-old Benjamin Fink, 78-year-old Betty Palmer, 78-year-old Leona Carpenter, and 62-year-old James Gallup. They were all buried in the backyard. When it came to Betty Palmer's body, it was noted that the head, hands, and lower legs were missing. Never found them. After all this, police began to investigate into the disappearances of Everson Gilmouth and also the death of Ruth Monroe. Everson, who was found in the box and labeled a John Doe, he was identified by hospital x-rays, but no cause of death was ever determined. When post-mortem examination of the 7 bodies was done, it showed that they all had large concentrations of the drug flurazepam, Dalmane, as it's commercially known. But this drug can be lethal, especially if taken with alcohol or other sedatives, and it's super potent in elderly people. So Dorothea knew what the fuck she was doing, huh? During the search of Dorothea's place, they found dozens of prescriptions for the drug in Dorothea's personal papers. On top of that, they realized that she had cashed over 60 benefit checks that had belonged to the deceased, and she had kept cashing them long after their deaths or disappearances. But she was cashing. Well, investigators knew Dorothea was their girl, but where was she? Where in the world was she? You see, when Dorothea had left the house to go get coffee, she had pocketed $3,000, headed over to a local hotel where she got herself an adult beverage. I'm sure she needed it. And then from there, she took a cab to another hotel across town where it was said she drank 4 vodka grapefruits. She's feeling nice, a little tingly inside. She then flags down another taxi and asked them to take her to Stockton, California, where she could board a bus that was heading for Los Angeles. So baby, she gets on that bus and bye-bye she goes. I guess at this point, the news had been running, you know, their thing on TV, like, if you've seen this woman, please contact police. And it was Dorothea's picture, asking for anyone who had information to come forward. Where's her location, you know? Now, I'm not sure if she was aware that this was happening, that she was like on TV, but it was happening. So when Dorothea makes it to Los Angeles, the first thing she does, because this is what she does, she goes to a bar. She goes to a bar where she meets a man named Charles. She tells Charles that her name is Donna. She's like, I'm Donna. I'm just a small town lady whose husband just died, and like I'm looking to start life all over again. The two of them, they ended up spending the day together. She's telling him, like, we're two lonely people just looking for company. We should move in together. But this guy was like, slow down, okay? I had fun, but not that much fun. But he does make plans to get with her the next day. Now, this Charles guy, he kept asking himself, like, where do I know this woman from? She just looks so familiar. That's when he has his light bulb moment and realizes that he saw her image on TV and police were looking for her. Thank God for Charles, huh? So he picks up the phone, he calls police. Boop, 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 hello. They move in quick, find the hotel that she was staying at, and by 10:40 p.m., Dorothea was placed under arrest. They got her good. So they had to fly her back to Sacramento, where I guess during the whole ride, she kept telling the officers that she had not killed anyone. She was like, the checks? Yes, I cashed the checks, but I used to be a very good person one time.
I used to be a very good person at one time.
I'm just a little old woman. How could you think I would do such a thing? You guys are nasty. And when you see pictures of her, you're like, yeah, she's a little old woman. Like, I don't know. Like, yeah, okay, I can see that. She looks like a nice, mature grandmother. During her questioning and interrogation, it was said that Dorothea was just a, quote, ordinary woman, that she was pleasant, socially intact, and intelligent, far removed from the media caricature that was depicting her as the embodiment of evil, end quote. Okay. The psychiatrist who was working with her before the trial diagnosed Dorothea as suffering from antisocial personality disorder, which is a condition marked by deceit and manipulation of others without any remorse. The psychiatrist speculated that running a boarding house most likely began for her as a humane endeavor, rooted in a desire to undo painful childhood memories. Like she wanted to rehabilitate her tenants as she couldn't for the people in her own family. But, and there's a very big but, on the other hand, when these people would, quote, unquote, act up, Dorothea would act up too. And she would snap, decide to kill them. Dorothea showed up to court on March 31st, 1989, and she showed up so cute, oh my God. She was leaning into Granny. She was wearing like this nice blue dress, a pearl necklace, just looking like a nice grandma who sends you birthday cards and probably knits things for you. But she was there to plead not guilty. Well, she would end up sitting in jail for another 4 years. Her trial finally began in like February of 1993. The prosecutor was blunt in his summary to the court, saying, quote, she wanted people who had no relatives, no friends, no family, people who, when they're gone, won't have others coming around and asking questions, end quote. And I think we can all agree on that one, right? Sounds about right. But her defense team, they were working hard. Her defense team came back saying that the tenants died of natural causes. How dare you accuse poor Dorothea? The only reason Dorothea didn't call paramedics to retrieve the bodies was because she was in charge of operating the boarding house, which was in violation of her parole, and didn't want to get sent back to prison. Natural causes, everyone. They just happened to be buried back there. They wanted to be buried back there. So the trial would go on for 5 months. They brought in like 153 witnesses, 3,100 pieces of evidence, and even a scale model of the Victorian boarding house. I love that, I know. But that was placed in front of the courtroom. It was so cute. I love a cute looking dollhouse, especially a Victorian looking dollhouse. Yay. It was cute, propped up, mentioned, okay. It was noted that during trial, she fully leaned into sweet little grandma persona. During her testimony, she, you know, poker face, grandma face, not giving any signs that she could be capable of doing any of these atrocious things, like burying people in your backyard, ma'am. Cashing checks. What was that about? Now, the prosecution's main problem was that there were no eyewitnesses to these alleged murders. I mean, yeah, there were people who lived with Dorothea who came forward and said like that she was always giving them medication, practically like shoving it down their throats. And that helped because in the case of Ruth Monroe's death, the toxicology test revealed that there were high traces of that prescription strength sleeping pill in her system. So it was like, okay, you know, that's something. Then there was a handwriting expert that confirmed that Dorothea had signed the names of 7 dead tenants on 60 federal and state checks that were sent to her address in like 1987, 1988, making around $5,000 a month from the forgeries. Now the prosecution brought in the handyman. Oh, I was like, the handyman, the one who helped Dorothea make the custom box to dump in the river, him? Yeah. So he told the court that he did indeed help her build this box, but no charges would be brought against him. The statute of limitations on the crime had expired. So that was a bummer, but his testimony was really helpful and played a big role in like getting Dorothea locked up. I can't say statute of limitations. Whatever. But this testimony played a major role because it gave jurors a glimpse into her sick little lies. So after a year of weighing the testimony, the jury found Dorothea Puente guilty of murdering Dorothy Miller, Benjamin Fink, and Leona Carpenter. The jury, they couldn't reach a verdict on the 6 other murder charges as they were declared a mistrial. It's believed because the bodies were so badly decomposed, there was really nothing found linking her directly to their deaths. You think being buried in the yard would be enough, you know, but it's just not. I know, who would have thought? On December 10th, 1993, Dorothea was sentenced to prison for life without the possibility of parole. She was 64 years old and would be spending the rest of her life at the Central California Women's Facility. It's near Chowchilla, California. It's like the largest women's prison in the country. While she was in prison, not kidding, Dorothea released a cookbook. Looked it up, had to know if it was true. It was true. It's called Cooking with a Serial Killer. Recipes from Dorothea Puente. It came out in 2005. I don't know what she was cooking. I didn't even know she liked to cook. Maybe she picked it up in like prison, but she came out with this book. It has 230 ratings, 4.5 out of 5 stars. Jeez, let me know if there's anything good in there. Look, Dorothea, like, she never really opened up about much of anything. It's not like she denied, but she never talked about it. And that's fine. She doesn't have to. There was one interview where she just pretty much said, I don't give a shit what anyone thinks. And it was like, all right, that's it, you know? Dorothea died in prison on March 27th, 2011 at the age of 82. RIP. So the home itself at 1426 F Street, it has become pretty famous. The home sold at a public auction for pretty cheap. The couple who lives there, I don't know if they still live there, but like they knew people were gonna come to the house, gawk. It was known as this murder house. People were coming regardless. And they felt that they might as well just lean into the whole, a serial killer used to live here thing, you know? So they had a sign, or they have a sign, hanging outside that says, trespassers will be drugged and buried in the yard. Also, there's like a mannequin of an older woman dressed up like Dorothea. She gets moved around, but last I looked it up, she was on the porch. People have lots of mixed feelings there. I don't know what to say. I wouldn't go look, but like I get what they're doing, you know? They're not making money off of it. I don't know. I don't give a shit. As long as it's like they're not like putting up the victims or something, right? I don't know. Don't ask me. But there is this one guy, his name is Martin Cutts, and he conducted a series of interviews with Dorothea for a Sacramento magazine called Sacktown Magazine. In the interview, he said that she appeared and behaved like an ordinary old lady. Of course, he was like, I'm smart enough to know better, but she's utterly ordinary. She was not out hunting for victims or saving quote-unquote tokens like many serial killers do, you know? Plus, she never like bragged or opened up or talked about any of the crimes. She didn't care for anyone to know or even know who she was. He goes on to say that Dorothea was wrapped up in her fantasy world and her insistence that she was a good person. And according to Martin, that's what made Dorothea so terrifying. She's an otherwise unremarkable woman who simply Just didn't place value on human life. The fucking end. I know. Dorothea, obviously unhinged, absolutely unwell. Here are my closing thoughts, because I had a couple of unanswered questions. Dorothea, bad. Yes, prison. Go to prison. Bad. Don't do that. You can't do that. No. But bodies were found buried in the backyard. So I was like, who helped her? Right? She's an older woman. There's no way she could do that all on her own. You're telling me she's upstairs or something and like kills someone and then drags them outside, shoveling and burying a body? No, there's no way she's doing that on her own. I don't believe that. Also, it was noted that one of the victim's bodies, there were several limbs that were missing. What was that about? Where did that take place? The dismemberment, like, was it in, like, what was that about? There had to be like physical evidence or something, right? Tools, something. And this made me think, maybe we can all agree here, that most likely the tenants were helping. I would think so, right? She probably told them they had to help, or she would report them, get them removed from the house, sent to jail or something. Maybe she threatened them. Maybe she just didn't tell them what she was doing, but like, hey, go dig a hole in the backyard over there, you know? But still, she would have to get help to carry the bodies. She wasn't buff. I saw the pictures. No buffness, okay? So she had help. We just don't know who. And maybe, like, it was a power play, though. In my mind, she was using them to do, like, most of the dirty work. She had all the power. But you can't convince me that this woman was lifting and moving bodies on her own, you know? I got hung up on that. Maybe it was the carpenter guy. I really don't think she gave a shit about what anyone thought, and that's a fact. Also, what was with the short marriages and stuff? Was it just for a quick name change, you think? Probably. Did they see something and bounce? Was there some sort of financial gain? Did they help? I just don't know. But probably never know. And no one's ever spoke up or spoke out, and that's okay. Yeah, I guess that's okay. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts down below. What do you think? She got some help, didn't she? She's a little old lady. She couldn't do that. You know, she's probably watching and directing everybody to do what they needed to do. I bet. Anyways, let me know what you guys think down below. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day so far. Leave me down in the comment section who you want me to talk about next time. I'm always collecting a list. But I really like this look. I hope you do too. I really like this. Came out cute, huh? Look at me. Oh my God. Okay. Cute. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Please be safe out there. Make good choices. And I will be talking to you guys later. Goodbye.